Here it is, my ELA project. If you're seeing this, that means I was successful in creating the entirety of this over one weekend. I mean, I had a whole week, but here, I'll just go over a few things. So I'm using Scratch as my animator for this, even though it's not technically an animation website. It seems to be doing pretty well. As you can see, I have this loop of the main character in an elevator. I don't know how to draw people, so all the characters are going to be these little cartoon dogs I made when I was 6. It's going to continue to be. And if you couldn't tell, I'm doing an animation recap of my book for my project. Since Mr. Williamson suggested it, I mean, he kind of forceful, but okay. So luckily, I don't actually have to switch scenes here because the elevator is where our main character, Thomas, wakes up. And I'm completely ad-libbing this, like I did not write a script at all. So I'm either gonna cut this up so much or see there's what my example. Anyways, Thomas finds himself, or he wakes up in this one elevator, and so he has no memory of everything except for that his name is Thomas. And so he's going up, he's scared because, well, I don't know what else he would feel. So eventually the elevator rises to the top, where a bunch of other 13-year-old boys help him out. Also, just so you know, I will be color coding any specific main characters, and any extras will just be gray. Now, if this sounds confusing, that's kind of the point, because it's supposed to be confusing and really traumatic experience. So Thomas just runs up to a tree, starts crying because he is a baby. And just to give a little bit of background information of where this is, so this is the Glade, which is a section inside of a giant maze that has all these boys. I guess I'll just explain real quick. So every 2 months they get a new Glader sent to the area. Every 2 weeks they get extra supplies. So Thomas happens to be the character that just got added as one of the second month things, I guess. And I wouldn't want to say everyone was mean to them, but like no one really cared and no one really helped him through the traumatic experience that he just went through, except for this one kid named Chuck, who was the previous newest Glader. And so basically, before they go to bed, Chuck kind of like gets him and just shows him around the glade, not like around the glade, but like a little bit, and end up trying to pull a prank on this kid named Gally. Yeah, that's Gally. You should probably remember him for later. Anyways, it's super late, so everyone goes to sleep, and Thomas gets issued a sleeping bag, and yeah, so he goes to bed. Yeah. Anyways, the next day, New wakes up Thomas, who is basically the second leader in charge. You should probably remember him for later. Anyways, basically, he wakes Thomas up and tries to get the important thing out of the way. So Newt takes Thomas to the walls of the maze, where he shows him what a griever is. Thomas is obviously very scared by this thing, and because it's horrifying. But I'm suck at drawing, so this is yeah. Anyways, so Newt explains how the glade is divided into 4 sections: the homestead, the graveyard, the slaughterhouse, and the garden, whatever. So basically, the slaughterhouse makes meat for people to eat. The garden makes fruits for people to eat. Homestead is basically just where you get business done if you have to do stuff. And the graveyard is for dead people, and dead people only. And then finally, there are the runners, who basically try to solve the maze. Now, for some reason, even after Thomas sees the griever, he still has an urge to become a runner, which he tells Newt and everyone about, and everyone finds him insane because it's like second day, and he should definitely not want to be in the maze. Anyways, he just tries to forget it, and he gets cozy in his sleepy bag because next day starts tomorrow, and if I want to keep this under 10 minutes, then I really need to be going fast. So the next day, one of the runners, this one being Minho, comes back with urgent news, which he tells Albie, who is the leader. You should definitely remember him. And so he says that he found a dead griever out in the maze. So Albie accompanies Minho to go find the dead griever, only it wasn't playing dead. And so everyone's wondering why Albie and Minho are still out in the maze when it's basically nighttime, which is when the grievers are most aggressive. And so the walls start to close, which I'm not sure I mentioned that, but they open and close every day. Gosh, how is this already 6 minutes long? But just before those doors closed, Thomas sees Minho dragging Albie, and so he runs out into the maze to try to save them. Now, the only problem with this being that going out in the maze, if you're not a runner, is a big no-no. But no one, but yeah, he just ran out right before the door closed. And so basically what he does is he tries to tie Albie to a wall to keep him away from the grievers. So apparently Albie had been stung by a griever, which is bad, and yeah. And to keep the grievers from finishing him off, he kept him inside some vines on the wall. He himself ran through the maze and found Minho. And basically what they did is they found this one, like, opening or, like, void. And so what they did is they tried to trick some grievers into going in there and then essentially killing them, I guess. So when they go back, Thomas is the first to survive a night in the maze, but he still has to have his punishment for going out inside the maze, which is a day in the slammer, or the jail, which he takes. After that, they have a meeting and elect him as a runner, just because no one really wanted to put him in jail at all, but they did. Anyways, Thomas wakes up the next day to everyone gathering around the box where he arrived. And so another kid had arrived, except two things were wrong. The first thing is that it wasn't 2 months, it had only been like 5 days. And the second is that she's the girl. And the thing is, there's literally been 0 girls that have arrived here before. So basically, she just says some stuff like, oh, I triggered the ending, and then goes into a coma. And so basically, the doctors take her to the homestead to, I guess, treat the coma. And so the one kid, Gally, which I guess I mentioned earlier, was like, got really mad at Thomas for some reason because he thought it was a little suspicious that he was the first to survive a night in the maze, and also that a girl came 2 weeks after him. Now, obviously, this very much confuses Thomas since he didn't think he did anything. But yeah, and I'm gonna have to skip another bunch of days, but yeah, because I need to keep this short. So Thomas wakes up the next morning to the sky being completely gray, and so I guess this is the ending that the girl was talking about. Now, what has changed as the ending is the sky is completely gray, so they have literally no idea what time it is, except for apparently the runners get watches now, I guess. And the second is that normally at night the walls would close to keep the grievers from getting into the glade. However, they don't. And so, basically, what's going to happen from now on is every single night a griever's going to kill a kid, which is a really cheery thought. The next big thing that happens is Albie wakes up. And when you wake up from getting a sting from a griever, you get like a lot back of your memory of like the outside world and why they're in here. But for some reason, Albie kind of just forgot all of it because he wasn't able to tell it quick enough because he's... I don't know why they never really explained this at all. And I get I'm kind of rushing this, but so a couple days after that, the girl finally wakes up for a coma. And so she like literally admits to causing the ending. And Thomas is like, oh no, she didn't cause the ending. And she's like, yeah, I did. So they put her in jail for a day. But the next day they had to take her out because like kids are being killed. And so I guess that means that they have to try to finally solve the maze. And so randomly the girl just has this information that the maze is a code, which like makes 0 sense, but I don't know. I guess they just have to work off that. So Thomas thinks about this long and hard, like what it means by the maze is a code, and he eventually gets the idea to go through the maps to try to see if they spelled letters, which they did. And it was like flow, catch, boat, like some really dumb stuff that would normally mean nothing. So in an attempt to find out what these mean, Thomas forcefully gets himself stung so he can try to get back part of his memory, like kind of what happened with Albie. But this time he says he's going to try to tell it quickly so he can get the word out for everyone and he doesn't immediately forget it. Now this works pretty well, and so he goes back at the meeting and spills out basically everything he knows. So this is a big experiment by a bunch of scientists who put them in there so that they could get a generation of kids that are like the strongest and like the smartest, I guess, for more experiments or something. And he also talks about like a computer somewhere in the maze where they need to enter the code. And so I guess everyone just like kind of goes with that. Everyone tries to find this computer because like they have nothing else to do, since if they stay there, the Grievers are just going to kill them. And so they are able to pinpoint where it is, which if you jump into a very specific spot of the one void I was talking about earlier, it will take you into the Griever hole. And so the Griever hole, it's great. There's tons of Grievers there, but it's also where the computer is. So basically, Chuck, which I haven't mentioned at all since like the beginning, him, Thomas, and the girl. Also, I'm not sure I ever said the name of the girl. It's like Tiana or something. Okay. Wow. 11 minutes. Okay, I gotta really go fast. You enter the code, and then it opens like a door, and so all the kids go through the door, and then, yeah, and it takes them to the scientists, and then the book ends. Why is this so long? It's 9 a.m. on Saturday. I mean, Sunday. Now I know. Now I know 100% this isn't gonna be perfect, but I'm hoping to get credit for this since I spent a lot of time on it, and yeah, because I swear this is much more than 5 hours. This is like 10 hours of work put into this, and I just really hope this counts. And I think you probably figured this out, but a ton of the book was left out just through recording this, since if I really explained everything, then it would be like hours long. So if a lot of the story felt really rushed, I mean, I'm just trying to do this. So yeah, I might have missed out on a lot of crucial information in the book, but I did it.